Everyone, so today we're doing lesson 1.4, rounding numbers. Our central question, what we're learning today is, how can you round numbers? So first of all, what is rounding? And you may have learned a little bit about this concept in 3rd grade, probably with smaller numbers. In 4th grade, we're going to be working with some bigger numbers, but first let's get the basics down of what is rounding. So essentially, rounding is saying about how much a number is. So for example, if I want to buy a pair of sunglasses, let's say for $18, I could say that that amount is about $20. So if I had to kind of figure around about how much a number is, I could round up if it's closer to that number, or I could round down if it's closer to the lower end of the number. So we'll talk about that more in a second. So thinking about how we estimate. An estimate tells you about how many or about how much. It is close to an exact amount, and you can round a number to find an estimate. So when you're rounding something, you're estimating about how much that number is. So going back to this visual, this is our rounding coaster. So thinking about how to round, and so let's look at like a couple of these examples. So for the number 34, if I want to round 34, then what I do is, and thinking about to the closest 10, I have to go to the number next door. And so the number next door to the tens is a 4. That underlying digit is telling me that that it's less, it's 4 or less, so that means that I have to round down. So 34 is about 30. I wouldn't say 34 is about 40. I wouldn't go up, because if it's 4 or less, then we round down. For rounding up, so let's say in this example, we have the number 87. So we look again at that number to the right of it, and the 7 is 5 or more. So that means that number is telling the 8 to move up to a 9, and then everything after becomes a 0. So 87 is about 90. It's closer to 90 than it is to 80, so we round up. So we'll talk about that more as the lesson goes on, about if a number is 4 or less, so any digits 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, then we round down. If it's 5 or more, like 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, then we round up, the number up. So I'm going to play a quick little game with you guys. And this one is just rounding to the nearest 10. So that's pretty easy. And this link, I just clicked on that picture. So if you want to play this game later, you can just click on that picture and find the link. I'm going to skip that. Hello. I don't know why it's not letting me do it. Let me try to refresh. My internet is on. All right, so it doesn't look like this wants to load right now. I don't know why my internet is being a little slow right now. So we'll just skip the game for now. Maybe I can try after. All right, so when we're rounding, I think of a little saying, 5 and above, give it a shove, 4 and below, let it go. So again, if a number is 4, 3, 2, 0, or 1, then we round down. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we round up. So let's look at this example, because this is a bigger number. And obviously, it's in the 10,000s place that is underlined, so that's the place that they want us to round to. The 6 is the number that's telling us what to do with the 2. So the 6 is the number to the right, and it's 5 or above. So that means it's telling 2 to go up to a 3, and everything after becomes a 0. So essentially, it's saying that 26,498 is about 30,000. In this one, we have that same number, 26,498, but this time it wants us to round to the nearest thousand. So we're going to look to the number next door, which is the hundreds place of 4, and the 4 is going to tell the 6 to do what? Go up or stay the same. If you're thinking stay the same, you're right, because it's 4 and below, so that means we're going to let it go. We're just going to let it stay what it is, and then everything after becomes a 0, including that number that told it what to do. So 26,498 is about 26,000. So it just depends on what number you're rounding to. It's the same number, but in this case, we were finding the nearest 10,000. In this case, we were trying to find the nearest 1,000. Oh, and also to notice that when you're rounding, that we didn't just drop off this 2, that we kept it. So don't forget, like, don't try to round 26,000 to 6,000. Like, it's still 26,000. Any numbers that came before the number you're rounding to, you need to make sure you keep and include in there. So again, here's that saying, 5 and above, give it a shove, 4 and below, let it go. So in this example, they have 70 and 80. So all the numbers in between are listed here. So if you're rounding 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, it would round up to 80 because all of those end in 5 or above. For these, 71, 72, 73, 74, those you would round down to 70 because they're closer to 70. They end in 1, 2, 3, or 4. Let's look at this example where we're trying to round a number to the nearest 10, because that's the number that's underlined. And so the boss number, I like to call the number to the right, the boss number, tells it what to do. So we're going to underline the place that we're rounding to, and then you could put a box around the number that's to the right of it. Or sometimes I'll even draw a little arrow above it to say, this is the boss number. This is the number that's going to tell that 7 what to do. Then you're going to decide, okay, so is 4 telling me to round down, or is it telling me to round up? So if it's a 4, remember that saying, 4 and below, let it go. It's a 4. So that means it's going to have 7 stay the same. It's not going to change. It's closer to 570 than it is to 580. So we're going to keep the 7 the same, and everything after becomes 0. So essentially, 574 is about 570 because that's what we rounded to. So, and remember, don't forget that step. Any number that came before it, you need to hang on to and keep it. Because if you only put 70, then you're saying 574 is about 70, and that's not true, right? So you have to make sure any numbers that came in front of it, you have to keep the same, unless you're rounding up to the next, the greatest value, which we'll talk about later. In this example, we're rounding to the nearest 100. So in this place, see how the 100 place is underlined? So we're underlining to the nearest 100. So the boss number in this case is the 7. So put a box around 7. And the 7 is going to tell us what to do with the 5. Is 5 going to go up to a 6, or is it going to stay a 5? So let's look at that rule again. If it's if it's a 7, if it ends in a 7, so like in this number, how it ends in a 7, then it's going to bump up because 5 or above, we're going to give it a shove, and it goes up to the next place, the next digit. So 5 is going to bump up to a 6, and everything after becomes a 0. So just keep that saying in mind while you're rounding. 5 and above, give it a shove. 4 and below, let it go. That number is going to tell that number what to do, if it's going to stay the same or if it's going to bump up to the next digit. All right, so why don't you give it a try? So you can solve these if you have a whiteboard and marker, or if you have paper pencil. You can write these down to try them out. And you should pause the video to try these on your own. So you're going to round to the place value of the underlined digit. So in this case for A, 6 is underlined. So remember, you're looking to the boss number, the number to the right, which is a 4. The 4 is going to tell 6 what to do. Is it going to tell it to stay a 6, or is it going to tell it to bump up to a 7? And then everything after becomes a 0. So whatever place you're rounding to, everything after becomes a 0. But if there are numbers to the left of it, like in this number here, then you need to make sure you keep those. Don't get rid of them. Okay? So pause the video and try these 4 problems. All right, so you should have paused the video, and now you're going to check your answers to see how you did. All right, so for 64,999, we said it's about 60,000 because the 4 told the 6 to stay the same. Everything after turned into a 0. For this one, 850,000, the 5 is the boss number, and the 5 tells the 8 to bump up to a 9, and everything after became a 0. In this one, the 1 is underlined. The 5 tells the 1 what to do, and it's 5 and above, so we're going to give the 1 a shove up to 2, and everything after became a 0. And, of course, I kept the 2 digits that were in front of it. We don't just get rid of those. And in this last one, the 0 is underlined. The 8 is going to tell it what to do. 8 is 5 and above, so we're going to give 0 a shove up to 1, and everything after becomes a 0. So 11,000 for that one. All right, so great job with that. Now I'm going to see if hopefully this game will load. It's another, yes, a rounding game. And again, this link is in this slide, so if you want to play this game later, just go in the slides and you can click on this link. And this is called Soccer Math. We'll just play one round. Level 1 is tens and hundreds. Level 2 is tens, hundreds, and thousands. So I would play this one. This one I wouldn't do just because it has decimals and we're not learning decimals right now. We're only doing whole numbers. So let's do level 2. And I'll just pick this one since I'm a girl. And all right, so it says round to the nearest 10,000. And they didn't underline it for us, so it's important if you play this game, you're going to really have to know your place values. So for this one, the 10,000s place is right here. It's a 2, right? So I'm going to look to the number next door, which is a 2 again, and that number is going to tell 2 to stay the same because it's 4 and below, we're going to let it go. So I'm going to type here, the 2 stays the same, and everything after becomes a 0. So 22,694 is about 20,000. Let's see if I'm right. And I got it. All right, so this one, round to the nearest 10. So which digit is in the tens place? Hopefully you're thinking 5, right? So the boss number is 6. The 6 tells the 5 to bump up to a 6, and then this number will become a 0. So my answer is going to be 44,760. Got it right. Round to the nearest 10. So again, the tens place is here. 5 tells the 7, bump up to an 8. Everything after becomes a 0. And of course, I need to remember the numbers that came before it. So I should have 29,080. You got it. Round to the nearest 1,000. So the thousands place is the 0. The 7's going to tell the 0, bump up to a 1. Keep the 5. Everything after becomes a 0. All right, last one. 20,655, round to the nearest 10,000. So the 10,000s place is the 2. The 0 is 4 and below, so we're going to let it go, and we're going to let 2 stay the same. And everything after becomes a 0. Oops, one too many zeros, I think. Yep, there we go. All right, so once you get 5 correct in a row, you get to play a little soccer game. So I click when the ball is like in that red circle because that tries to, that's when like you're aiming for the goal. Oh, I missed. I think you get like, what was it, 4 tries? 4 or 5 tries? I got it in. Yay, we made it. And that's it. So then you can play again, start a new game. I would play this round again and stay on that level because it's a little bit more challenging. So there's that game that's kind of practices the skill we just learned. All right, so you can play that game after though, after you finish your assignments you have to do. So you're gonna go to Think Central. You can click on the link here or the link that's attached in the assignment to complete 1.4 rounding numbers. Also, please complete the attached exit slip in Google Classroom for lesson 1.4. And if you want even more extra practice, you can go into your workbook. If you are a full remote student, you have your workbooks at home. And then of course, the games that I attached for extra practice if you would like to play those. So that's it. Let me know if you guys had any questions and good luck.